Right, okay, so I'm going to have a go at painting winter trees today, which is a special request. I'm going to do, so that will be the summer version, that's what I did this morning. So it's basically going in with the darks first, and then, well, the darks here, and then mid-tones, and then working to the light. So that's really an oils or an oils and acrylics approach, sort of going dark to light. So, yeah. This is very similar scene. And I brought this in just as an example of how my trees turn out when I'm just painting anyway. So this was painting, I think it's sometime before Christmas. I painted that from St James's Park. So yeah, with something like, well, let's do this a little bit of this one first. So you've either got, when you've got trees where you no leaves on, you've either got these very, very fine twigs that just form almost like a sort of mesh, or you might be able to see individual twigs and branches. So I'll do a little bit of both. With this one, to get these very fine lines, I tend to find a rigger brush is the easiest thing to have. So these are very, I've got painting that one, this is another one. They're just really like a thin brush with long hairs, and that means you've got a little bit more flexibility, but it also will just hold a bit more paint. So so if you're painting a line, the paint doesn't run out so quickly. I find with using these, I need the paint, pretty much need the paint to be a bit thinned down. Otherwise, it will be just gloopy, blobby marks. I'll try it on here. I'm not sure if it's best to kind of, yeah, that's okay, isn't it? I quite often just use my little finger so that I'm not getting too close to the board. That's working well. And this would work just as well with acrylics, watercolour, oils. Find them really, whoops, that's a bit too heavy. You've got to be careful that you don't push down too hard and you get a really blobby thick mark like that. So that's why I just rest my little finger like that. Could go that way too. Kind of let and probably would work just as well, having it a little bit flatter. Yeah, if you're gentle, you can just about do it without resting. I mean, quite often my paintings are wet, and this will be on the later stages. I might have painted some sky behind it, so I just have to rely on just trying to get sort of very light touch marks. Something like that. Another option is actually almost like the complete opposite of that, which is a really worn down blunt brush. So this started out as a square brush, which I had somewhere. I don't know if you can see that. It started out as a little square hole brush, but got ground away into this sort of shape. So that, again, you wouldn't necessarily need the paint quite so thin for that. This is probably better for sort of tree trunks, but I've got a bit more control in the direction because it can still get a reasonably thin line. But say it was something like that, maybe it might be better really for branches rather than twigs. Get something, get some fairly thin lines. Let's do it with a thinner paint too. Yeah, it's a little bit scratchy, but you can get some a bit thinner. Gets something nice like that. Yeah, it depends on the size of the painting as well. With painting something like this, sometimes what I've tried to do, I've got a painting that I'll bring in next week. Really, that scene that was snow on the ground that I did some years ago. And basically, I'll start with sort of the tree trunks. I think. Let's start that way. So you can kind of get the main tree trunks, main branches in. And it really relies on having quite a dry background. So this is one where you probably need to have the background dried off. It wouldn't work quite so well on sort of wet paint. And then I'm using this fan brush, but quite often what I see students doing is this, which I've never really liked that. I don't think it looks very attractive. I tend to like to just kind of almost like just graze the board a little bit. So it wouldn't necessarily have to be a fan brush, but something where you're not putting too much heavy paint on. Might be able to do it also with just an ordinary bristle brush, but I think probably the coarser brush is better rather than a very fine brush. The nylon brushes are quite fine, so yeah, it would work reasonably well with a bristle brush. So you get that kind of dry brush look, and just build up the impression of twigs in the distance. That way. Keep going like that. You could have some slightly lighter bits. That might be quite nice. It's not all the same kind of tone, the same tone. Slightly lighter tone. And it's probably best not to go in really, really dark as well, because it's quite a way away. Like that. And then perhaps just use the combination of the rigger as well. Could work some twigs and branches into there. Keep it as light a touch as I can. And again, wet paint, so I can't really lean on that. I've just got to rely on being a little bit gentle. So they're the two main approaches I use when I'm painting winter trees. Anybody ask anything? Or that makes sense.
I think you did what I was going to ask you right at the end there. So it's just that trade-off. If you want to keep it really fine, like winter trees often have those very wispy branches, but to make it a bit darker, you just got to load a bit more paint on the brush, have you?
Darker
paint.
Yeah.
Still keep it light.
Yeah. Yeah, because to me they're not too dense. Yeah, I think I probably prefer the slightly lighter tones. Go a bit with that. I'm loath to just do anything in one colour or one tone. I always try and see a few variations. I think a lot of things with painting is looking for anything that's, not settling on this is a tree, this is brown. It's looking at a tree and thinking, well, it's a little bit peachy coloured there, and it's a little bit greeny coloured there. Just trying to look for all the variation, trying to sort of train yourself to look for variety. And that's what keeps the paintings interesting. That and trying to find a variety of brush marks. Just kind of across there. And the other thing about trees is looking for movement and rhythms. I'm just seeing a few branches coming across here, which is quite nice. And that might be quite nice to pick up on. And actually, when you get a few other twigs and branches in, sometimes it starts to just liven up a little bit. Get interesting. The other thing is, try and get in some sketching and painting from life. If you're working in landscape, I did a little sketch of that in the snow, which I then did a painting from. So I'll bring that next week. But I have painted quite a few paintings in this area around Hayward Castle. It's quite a nice area. Roots.
Yes, so it looks like it's sitting in the ground.
Yeah. What, this particular one, or just in general? Yeah. I'm just kind of looking what I can see. I think there's, that would give it enough, and shadows really to make it look kind of, like it's in space. Roots in a sense is the opposite. It's all the branches but going downwards. I did have quite a nice picture somewhere in there of a tree with loads and masses of roots. It's quite interesting. Which I always fancy painting, and I've never got around to painting that one yet.
Mangrove trees in Florida.
Sorry?
We go at Florida and paint some mangrove trees.
All right, yeah.
They've got great fleshy roots.
Yeah, that could be good. Right, okay. Thank you.